Turf Today is sponsored by Toro. And did you know that Toro has a full line of work vehicles? Whether you're hauling materials, towing equipment, or shuttling VIPs, Toro has a vehicle for you. Their Workman series is your go-to for power and payload capacity, and the Vista series is perfect for guest transportation. They also have a super comfortable ride. Plus, Toro has tons of options to customize your work vehicles, including all electric models. So check that all out at toro.com.
Hey, buddy.
What's going on?
Not much.
Did you
I
catch a
probably
couple of these or what?
No, I didn't. I tried. I just laid down, rested the eyes for a little bit, and that was about it. So nothing
Yeah,
crazy.
sometimes it's all you can do. Just rest the
Yeah,
brain.
yeah, that's it. Just shut her down for a few minutes.
Yeah, so tell me about the week. You're down in Georgia at East Lake. How's that going?
Down at East Lake, it's going well. Brand new golf course. Andrew Green and his team came in and kind of reimagined the whole thing, taking it back to its Donald Ross roots. Massive difference. It is it's just full of character now. Really big changes. So excited for everyone to see it. Everyone down there is really excited for the players to get out there and have the scores count today. And yeah, so it'll be a great week. It'll be nice to see how they hold up to this. Obviously with a renovation, new greens, all that kind of stuff. It's playing nice and firm. The weather's been great so far, so should be playing fast. Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
Nice. It's
Yeah,
everything I've seen so far. It's been looking really nice. I saw some of the coverage from the Creator Classic there yesterday, and yeah, it was very green. Everything looked very healthy. Even was it number 15 with the island green there? They've taken out that bunker completely.
yeah. 15, really cool hole. Talking to some of the caddies the other day, they do not like the back tee because it's a freaking beast. I'm not sure what the distance is, but I mean, you stand back there on the pro tee and it looks like you're trying to hit a tabletop. It looks tiny, but yeah, got rid of the bunker. Have some really neat roll off areas in the back. Just again, the greens, the work just in general, just brought back a lot of different slopes, and again, like I'll keep using the word character. I mean, just brought a ton of character back into it and a bunch of strategy, and yeah, it's gonna play completely different than it has in years past. But yeah, it's great. 16. Um, 16 is very unique. They tinkered with a bunch of different ways to maintain it, but on the right side of the green, I mean, it's a dramatic fall off, and so they basically have to get a walk mower up there, and it takes about three people to hold the mower. A guy with ropes and one guy kind of pushing it along the bank and all
Wow.
that. It's pretty dramatic. So listen to the guys have conversations about what they were going to do, and Andrew talked about how he brought the idea of it up and asked Charlie and the team, is this going to be okay? You going to be able to maintain it? And the overall consensus was, look, we don't want to hold you back. We want you to do what you want to do to this golf course to get it back to what it was, and put your vision in place, and we'll figure out how to take care of it. So that's what they did, and that's what they've been tinkering with. So but yeah, no, it's pretty neat. 17 is just so cool. Andrew talked about, again, you're making it drivable hole. So he built a little um built a little kick slope in the front of it that would allow people to roll it in, make it drivable, land it front left of the green, let it kick up on. But again, just the bunkering is phenomenal. The steep faces, steep slopes, um, sort of flat bottom bunkers. There's not heavy flashes on them. Um, but yeah, I mean, just the mornings and the evenings out there, sunrises and sunsets, just everything they've done to that place just casts some amazing shadows. It's beautiful, very picturesque. A lot of the video we've been putting out this week, you can kind of see some of that character to it, and yeah, just excited to see this thing get kicking off today.
Yeah, it'll be great. I remember being down there and playing. It was a different time of year, but 18 was one of the coolest finishing holes. Like that's an absolute monster of of a hole. I remember being in those fairway bunkers too, so it was kind of nasty. I don't know if they've changed that at all.
Yeah, they changed. They made some changes to 18. Did a lot of work on the pond. Remove the pond. So it used to kind of start from what I recall in the driving range. So you'd actually hit over the water on the driving range. They got rid of that, extended the pond out a little bit. I don't remember exactly what it all was, but yeah, I mean they changed something to every single hole. I mean there's not a hole out here that's anything similar to what it was. I mean the layout's all the same for the most part. He added a couple dog legs here and there, shift some greens, I think probably back to where they were early on. But yeah, I mean the overall layout's the same. But yeah, I mean he moved a bunch of different bunkers around, in fairways, greens, complexes, you name it. It's you won't recognize it.
Wow. So what does that mean for the players then? Because they're used to kind of playing all these same courses all the time and kind of knowing their way around. They have the books with all their little, all their little spots and yardages and
Yeah.
everything. So what does that mean for the players?
Yeah, it means they're going back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Does this thing keep popping out? Sorry, I didn't bring my good set up here, so it's kind of in and out.
There you
Uh,
go.
yeah, I mean they're going back to the drawing board. It's like a brand new golf course for them. So again, I mean the caddies have been out walking. Even Monday, we saw more players than we've seen out here, at least in the couple of years that I've been coming out, because they're all wanting to learn this new golf course. So I mean they're getting out there. They're taking their books around. The caddies have been walking the golf course every single day, taking their notes, throwing golf balls around the greens, watching how things roll off, watching how hard a ball has to get in, land into a green in order for it to potentially run off and into water. So I mean, they're out there and they're treating it basically like it's like a U.S. Open venue that they're seeing for the first time, and
Right.
trying to get all their notes. So, again, like I said, I mean, for the most part, the playing angles and stuff haven't changed a ton. But obviously with new placement of bunkers and um, obviously new strategy hitting approach shots into greens because the greens have been completely redone. They're having to think a lot more now. So they've been studying this thing for a little while.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
definitely excited to take that in this weekend. I know this episode will come out after the weekend, so hopefully everything went off without a hitch and it was a lot of fun. And there were a lot of positive things and good things that come out of the tournament and the golf course.
Yeah, I think the players are really going to like it. I think scenery on TV. Hopefully, people all enjoy watching it on TV. The team here is fantastic. The one unique thing that I find about this event is they get a lot of the same volunteers year after year. Probably, yeah, I can't remember how many volunteers they bring in, 60 or 70 volunteers, and um, yeah, I'd say a third of them are all returning people that I've seen for the last 3 or 4 years that I've come in, and that's fairly unique. But yeah, it's a cool culture down here. The team's doing a great job, as it is with any tournament. Early mornings, late nights, very little sleep. But they're doing a good job, and it's also unique because they don't tee off till 11 o'clock.
Hmm.
There's 30 players in the field.
Right.
We're still out there at, I think breakfast is typically at 5:15 in the morning, and there's no rush. You don't have to squeeze it all into a 2-hour window in order to get off the golf course. You've got 5 hours to get everything done. So it's good because people can take their time. There's not a ton of stress out there on the guys to get their jobs done. I mean, obviously they want to do it well, they want to do it right, they want to do it quickly, but there's not that countdown clock that there normally is at most events where there's a 7 o'clock start on 1 and 10 or whatever. It's 30 guys off number one starting at 11 o'clock, and let's roll.
It's a perfect situation for a turf crew. Just give us till
Exactly.
11, let them go off one at 11.
Exactly. But yeah, it's pretty unique. It's a neat event.
Awesome. So for today, we're going to the golf club. And you
The
surprised
golf
me.
club.
You surprised me with that one because I have heard of that before, but I thought it was kind of just one of those things. But yeah, top 100 golf course, and it was cool to look it up and see some of the history and things. It's an amazing property and not a very busy golf course either, right?
Yeah, it's not overly busy. It is. There's, when I say the golf club around town, we've got another public golf course in the area called the Golf Club of Dublin. So everyone's like, "Oh yeah, the Golf Club of Dublin." I'm like, no, no, no. This
No.
is this is the golf club over in New Albany. There's a reason you haven't heard about it. But yeah, it's pretty private. Been around. It's one of Pete Dye's, one of his first ones. Built in the 60s. Actually, Jack Nicklaus had a little bit of a part of that design as well. I think I heard stories of Jack coming out and spending some time with Pete Dye out there building that place, and I think that kind of spurred their relationship. And I believe Jack had a pretty heavy influence when he designed Harbor Town down in Hilton Head as well. But yeah, just an incredible property, kind of set on the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio. Just when you're out there, you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. It's quiet. It's just absolutely beautiful. Keith has been there for a very long time. Um, Keith joked with me when I asked him to come on this podcast. He's like, "Why would you want me? You know, I'm not an icon. I'm not a legend. I'm not whatever." I'm like, Keith, come on, man, quit being so humble. You
Yeah.
know, superintendent at a top 100 facility out here. He doesn't get a ton of notoriety, and again, I think that kind of falls in line with the club. They don't necessarily want to be known. They don't put their name out there. They don't host events. They just do their thing, and they create a great product for their membership. And Keith does a wonderful job there with his superintendent Chris Allender and the entire team there. They do a great job. And Keith is one of the more analytical people that I know. He does not take any decision lightly. Um, he does as much due diligence as anyone I've ever met, and reaching out to as many people that he can in order to make sure he does the right thing for his club. So looking forward to having him on here. He's a great person. He and his wife and kids, just amazing people, and yeah, can't wait to have this conversation and introduce people to Keith.
Myself included, I'm really looking forward to learning more about him. He's one of those guys, doesn't have a lot of social media, hasn't done a lot of interviews outside of the stuff he's kind of done with you.
Yeah, no, again, I mean, he's just kind of an under the radar guy, and like I said, just kind of fits with the club. It's funny how, the more I travel, the more people I talk to, personalities tend to align with the culture of the club, and that's certainly the case here. It's a pretty relaxed environment. Keith's a fairly relaxed guy, um, but yeah, just again, just kind of under the radar, doesn't put himself out there much, but he's one of the guys. You know, you go around and you see all these different places and all the different chapters around the country, and Central Ohio's got a really neat group of guys that talk to each other quite often, and um, Ohio chapter is what in general, but the Central Ohio guys, just they all know each other really well. There's guys that are extremely tenured. It's pretty unique. There's guys there that have been at the course since so guys that have been there for 30 plus years, and there's a lot of them there. So Keith's kind of part of that. He's been at the golf club, I think, since the 80s. It's been kind of his one main stop. But no, he's a guy that, again, he's at this super exclusive club, but you'll catch him interacting and talking shop with guys at, the public golf course down the street. He'll be sharing ideas with them. He'll pick up ideas from them and he'll give them ideas and all that. So it's just, he puts himself out there locally, but, not in these types of forums for sure.
Oh yeah, looks like he's got a lot going on. Have you ever
Yeah.
hosted or worked at any big events? No.
Yeah, which I think I'm pretty sure he interned at the memorial at somewhere along the way. I'm pretty sure he worked there for a short stint. I can't remember. I'll have to ask him about that. But I thought he was part of the crew out there for a short period of time. So he might not consider that like a US Open. Maybe that's what he was thinking when he answered that question. I don't know.
Hmm. Well, there's got to be a lot of guys that do a lot of volunteering and service and go to all the conferences and trade shows. And then some guys, like two of my best buddies, they don't think they've ever been to the conference. I don't think they've ever worked a big tournament before. They're just smart guys, great at their jobs, but they stick to their property. They work hard, and it's kind of hard to get them out of that comfort zone and getting outside of the city. They do a lot with the
Yeah.
association locally here, but yeah, getting to conferences and tournaments and things. I think maybe some people just kind of stick to their guns, work hard at their own thing, and sometimes maybe don't have the time to branch out and do other things.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. We encourage it on this show a lot because I think it's an opportunity for great experience to network, to build your network around you. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that are are perfectly content with staying home and um, not traveling to conferences, not being a part of tournaments and all that. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I know. I got asked the question the other day, if you could be a superintendent at any golf course in the world, like somebody could just give you that job and you would have the knowledge and be able to do it, which one would it be? I don't think there's a specific course. Like I think it would more or less be you'd want the right type of situation. You want to be close
Yeah.
to home, somewhere for your family to come and be a part of it, somewhere where you have a good budget, where you have good people working there, you have a good membership that understands the golf course comes first. There'd be a list of things you'd want the golf course to kind of have and be about instead of it being about the property or the
Yeah.
name or something like that. So there's a
Well, I
lot to
think,
be said for people that just want to work at a course that's right for them instead of,
yeah.
having that title.
Yeah, absolutely. I think climate would go into that too. I think
Yeah.
if you talk to a lot of guys in
Yeah.
Northern California and whatnot, they're like, yeah, it's pretty nice. This is a great spot to grow grass. So,
Yeah. No, the climate would come into it big time. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm
Mother
sure the
Nature being the
guys,
ultimate boss.
yeah, the guys in the Mid-Atlantic and Deep South right now are probably saying, it'd be nice to be 70 degrees every day, getting a nice breeze off the Pacific,
Yeah.
not dealing with the heat and humidity of that we get during the summertime during that 90-day grind.
That's right. And then up here, we're dealing with the winter and everything. It was actually
Yeah.
freezing cold this morning on the course. Like
Was it?
played
Oh,
the other day, we
man.
were sweating, just it was so hot. And then yeah, wake up to go to the course this morning and just layering it up. Out
Yeah.
there, kids are working. They're like, I don't have gloves. It's so cold.
There's a lot of people around the country that are looking forward to those days, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Once things
Eh,
start to turn, even just the grass, like starting to see the cool night temperatures and things, it's like, I can
Yeah.
finally breathe again.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, it's hard to believe, man. It's hard to believe that we're almost there, in the north, or we're almost there. It's starting to get nice and cool, nice, sweatshirt weather. Can't
Mm-hmm.
beat it.
Tomorrow is actually the last day for most of our students that work at our course. So they're all
Oh,
going back to
really?
school. All the part-timers are all done. So, come Monday, it's just going to be just the
It's
the
gonna be
rest of the
quiet out
crew.
there, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Man.
So be doing some different things, but like that's the golf course goes through different parts of the year, and I think when kids go back to school and people return to that part of their lives, I think you do see less rounds. There's less people that have the
Yeah.
availability to play golf. So it's just kind
Yeah.
of everybody starts to kind of turn down. But I don't know. I love fall golf. Being out there in a sweater and some pants and just
It's
being
the
able to hit
best.
the leaves changing colors. Yeah, there's nothing better than that.
No, it's the absolute best. It's tough. It's tough because, and as you'll find out here soon, I mean, the kids' activities, once those soccer games start hitting in the fall and everything, it's tough to get
Yeah.
out there and play fall golf.
Yeah, that would put a bit of a
Weekends weekends are taken up with kids' activities, man. You'll be there soon.
yeah. It seems like it's nonstop.
No, man. Yes, it is. It's fun though. Wouldn't trade it for anything.
No, yeah, exactly. The best job you've ever had, right?
That's right. That's right. The hardest job too.
Yeah.
Howdy, fellas.
Hey,
There he
hey.
is.
How are
Keith, how you
you,
doing?
Keith?
I'm doing okay. Can't complain.
Yeah. I was looking in the background to see if we could see the deer and all sorts of
We just got to go up a little bit higher for
yeah.
that.
There we
Oh,
go.
nice.
There
There
we
you
go.
go.
Outstanding.
Big 10-point
Outstanding.
buck on the wall there.
9,
9. Okay, okay. Still decent though.
but several others around the office as well, but nothing worthy of mounting like that one was.
When's the next batch of jerky coming out?
Soon because I need to make some room in the freezer because deer season's upon us. As we get into fall here, it's time to start thinking about those things. And, if you talk to any deer hunter, it's kind of like golf season. Golf season never ends. Deer season never ends. You got to be always doing something, right?
I love it. I love it. Keith is well known for his jerky, just so you're aware. It's fantastic. Always makes for a great treat when we're on the road at different events and whatnot. Keith's been kind enough to send us with a few bags of it for certain golf trips and whatnot. So
Beautiful. Well, we were just talking about the fall a little bit there, Keith. Is that something once you kind of wrap the golf course up and you're out hunting?
That's the plan. Yeah, I mean, I like to it's a great little break for me. I like to just get out there, and if I don't see anything, it's still a bonus. I had some quiet time away from electronics, out in nature, and it's something that I've just really embraced. It's really fun, and I really enjoyed it. I do all kinds of other hunting as well, but I just enjoy the peacefulness and serenity of being out there. And if a hawk flies by, I mean, I've had hawks chase birds right through my deer stand. It's just like, whoa, what happened? So yeah, it's stuff like that. It's fun.
So hunting trip or golf trip?
Um, I've been on more golf trips than hunting trips, but either one is actually pretty fun. I mean,
Yeah.
they're both fun to do. And I think they're very similar in all honesty. I mean, if you go shooting with a bunch of guys, you compliment guys on a good shot. And what do you say in golf all the time? Nice shot.
Just a few less of them when you go hunting, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the only difference really is in hunting, you drink after the event. In golf, you can drink during. That's about the only difference.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Don't want to be out there drinking before you're hunting. That's
Right.
so Keith, tell us, we were just kind of talking about you before this started, and I told him I had to kind of pull your teeth a little bit to get you to come on. Don't necessarily see you on too many of these podcasts or in these articles. So tell us about yourself for those that are just learning about you now.
Well, I started in this business back in, I guess you'd call it fall of '83 when I entered ATI. I started there at Ohio State University Agricultural Technical Institute in the fall of '83 in the turfgrass management program, and graduated from there in '85, spring of '85, and then decided to continue my education down at Ohio State. And while I was working at Ohio State, I worked at Sauda Country Club in '85, did the U.S. Senior Open there, went to Muirfield Village in, actually, I think, no, it was '86. The Senior Open was '86 at Sauda, and then in '87 I did the Memorial Tournament in the Ryder Cup at Muirfield Village, and then I worked the Memorial Tournament in the spring of '88, and then I started at the golf club as the assistant superintendent in the spring of 1988, and I've been here ever since, which is crazy. It's been 36 years, and it's just I can't believe that I've been here that long and had the opportunity to do what I do. It's been fun.
So you did lie on your questionnaire. We were talking about that too. You said no, you haven't worked any big events, but here you're rattling off Senior Open, Ryder Cup, Memorial. I mean, come on, Keith, what are you doing?
Well, I thought you meant like golf course superintendent, hosted event like as a golf course superintendent, not necessarily work. But yeah, I guess I did. And those were fun events. I have great memories of those. The Ryder Cup was hooked me for life when we had that event at Muirfield Village. And one of the stories I like to tell was I was mowing the ninth green just a couple days before the event, and all the stuff was getting set up and everything. It's getting pretty exciting, and the ground starts shaking, and I hear this horrendous noise over my mower to the point where I thought my mower was malfunctioning, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the engine's going to blow up. Well, lo and behold, I look up and the Concorde flies over my head. They buzz the clubhouse. And I'm just like, I get goosebumps today thinking about it, but I'm just like, okay, they're here. And I mean, it was close. And the ground, like I said, I'm not lying. The ground was shaking and it made a ton of noise. And when they came in style, and it was pretty intimidating.
Wow, you don't hear about that too often. That's pretty amazing. I'd just love to go back to when you were younger. What kind of got you into the game of golf, and how did you kind of find that avenue and connect those dots to become, somebody who works in the turf industry?
So loved to play as a kid. As soon as I could swing a golf club in the backyard and not hit any windows, I was doing that and begging my dad to play golf. Caddied. I caddied at Chagrin Valley Country Club back. This is probably in the late '70s, early '80s. As soon as I was old enough to carry one of those bags, I was out there caddying and riding my bike to Chagrin Valley. So, I just had an attachment to the game early on. And as I was caddying, I was also doing some landscape work for elderly people. And so, I was raking leaves and doing landscape work that, that a younger kid could do. Not really making lawn applications or anything like that, but, just doing basic yard work, mowing. And I liked it. I thought it was fun. And I'm looking at the guys on the crew and I'm thinking about it. But what clinched it was I went to my senior year in high school. I went to a little college day thing that they had, and I walk up to this table and it said OSU Agricultural Technical Institute, and the first thing this guy says is, "There any golfers in the house?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, we got a program for you." And they just talked about being a golf course superintendent. I looked at my mom that night and I said, "Mom, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go be a golf course superintendent. This makes a ton of sense. I love golf. I love being outside. This yard work I've been doing has been fun." So that's how it started. And, my mom drugged me to that thing. I was kind of kicking and screaming, going, "Oh, I don't want to go to college." I mean, I hated high school and, but it's just funny how it turned out, and I never looked back. I fell in love with the industry, and, yeah, it's been great. I feel very
You
fortunate.
mentioned you mentioned the longevity, Keith. You've been there 30 some years. What do you think the key to being able to stay at one spot for so long has been for you?
I think patience, I feel like I have patience for certain things. Like I can't be a mechanic because if a bolt doesn't come out and I need to get it out, I get frustrated right away. But I have patience for certain things, and you just have to be patient, listen to people, formulate your plan. But having that patience, ever since I've been here, there's been a lot of things to do, and the membership finally started realizing it. And as I would suggest things, that we started checking the boxes, and so it took a long time to get the plan in place. But once we started doing it and seeing the improvements of the golf course, it was fantastic. But all through that time, I was always kind of being patient, listening to what they have to say, doing what they wanted to do, but showing them this is what we could have, or this is what we might have, or this is what other clubs are doing right now. So planting the small seeds that you need to do to make the improvements of the golf course that I felt like needed to happen over time as the golf club progressed, and it was tough to cut a tree down out here for the first 10 years I was here. But when we started having problems with greens, we would cut more trees down, and then they would see some nice results. The greens would get better. And then I would go, okay, let's go change the sod around the green, because now I've got some decent sunlight. So you do that, and then they're like, "Wow, this is really nice, Keith." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's because we can finally grow some decent grass around the green." So we replaced it, and we're starting with something new, and they really like that. So then the snowball starts rolling, right? And so I think just perseverance and patience is probably, sometimes you have to bite your tongue as a superintendent. You can't just go in there and demand. You have to guide them down the road that you want them to go down, and it takes time.
I love that you said patience. That's got to be one of the biggest words used on the golf course. It's needed to be, a superintendent and have that longevity to follow up Brian's question just about being able to work at a course like that for a long time. Was that kind of your plan or your goal, or did you see yourself bouncing around a little bit? Did this long time role kind of just fall into place, or was that what you sort of wanted?
Well, coming off of working working the Senior Open and then the Memorial and the Ryder Cup, I thought I was going to be one of those guys that goes on to work at a tournament golf course, and I certainly had that in the back of my mind as an assistant here. I was like, because those things were fun. It was challenging. It was fun. It was exciting. You got to see the best players in the world play golf on the golf course that you had a part in maintaining. So I thought I was going to be one of those guys. But my opportunity came in 1993 to become the superintendent here, and I jumped at it because the golf club is still it's a 1967 Pete Dye design. It's a championship style golf course, and the members were certainly moving towards that's how they want it. They want a championship style golf course. So, I started thinking, well, this gets my feet in the door, and if I still want to move on, I can. but I took the opportunity as soon as I could and jumped at it. And I'm glad I did. I look back and think, well, what if I would have job jumped and jumped to a few different places? What would my career look like? We'll never know, but I'm glad I've stayed where I have, because I feel like it's made me a better turf manager. I've got to see how the different maintenance plans that I've implemented over time have changed, and how they've changed the golf course, and how the golf course has reacted to those maintenance plans. So, some guys will maybe go to a golf course, enact their maintenance plan, but they don't get to see it work for 15 or 20 years. Does that make sense? So I think it's made me I know what we've done in the past. I know what we're doing now, and I can build off of what I've done in the past based on results that I see currently. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Talk about the responsibility of taking care of one of Pete's masterpieces. I mean, that place is, I know it's obviously gone through a lot of work, but I think overall it's still fairly original from Pete's initial design, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Preservation is something that I've taken very close care, preserving what we have. Um, the Pete designed a very, very good golf course back in 1967. To build a golf course that was 7,200 yards was, think about the equipment we had back in 1967. We had, the golf balls weren't that great. We had persimmon headed woods that were tiny. Um, and people were, Jack was hitting the ball, what, 260, maybe 270 back then. So, yep, preserving what we have here, I think, is important. And it goes from when we were cutting trees down, were we changing the golf course? That's stuff that comes to mind, but eventually we had to, because the golf course was being sacrificed. We were losing greens, we were losing turf quality, we couldn't do what we wanted to do. But it made me think. And then when Pete would come in, I would ask him questions like that, like, what do you, and he, he looked at me and he said, Keith, he says, I had no idea how hard it was to grow grass in the shade. He goes, cut every one of these things down. He goes, it's fine. It's not going to change my design. He said, I had no idea. So things like that gave me reassurance, and then you move on. But I was very careful not to change a bunker, the position of a bunker, the position of a tee. That was messing with the architecture of the golf course. Cutting trees down was maintenance. It was agronomics and maintenance. And eventually a tree is going to get too big for its site in a lot of cases, when they're, the golf clubs now, getting up there in age, and we had to keep up with making sure that we could grow the grass we needed, get the light requirements that we needed. And so, yeah, I mean, I've been very careful, and those are all good things that I feel like I've done. Because if I can tell you, this golf course really, even though we've been through a lot of changes, like you said, Brian, we've rebuilt the greens, we've put new sand in the bunkers. The amount of real big changes haven't been very dramatic. The greens construction, Pete came in and did that. So we got what Pete was thinking back in 2013. And we also got what Pete was thinking back in 1967. So we got the best of both worlds. We saw how his career changed when he came back and did what he did in 2013.
Keith, how would you describe this golf course to somebody who hasn't been there? Some of the iconic things or some of the uniquenesses to it. How would you kind of tell people about it?
Well, um, you know, I think there's some funny quirks about the golf club. Pete had 500 acres to build a golf course, and he couldn't find a place for the driving range or the putting green. So it takes up a lot of space. It's a big property. But it's like, Pete, why did you attach the putting green to the 18th green? And why did you try to squeeze the driving range in next to the 13th hole? I mean, but it was designed for a low play volume membership, but designed on a very big scale. I mean, it takes up, we own 500 acres. The golf course takes up 225. It's very natural looking. There's no houses on it. I don't know what terminology you want to use that from an architectural standpoint, but you might call it like a parkland style golf course. So, but I think that the thing that I would reiterate the most is it's very natural. And we have defined lines, but we're a little rough around the edges. We've always had long grass, for instance. Long grass is vogue now. In the 90s, it became very popular. Well, Pete put it in 1967, and it was to divide the holes, um, and give each hole its own separate little entity. So very natural looking, and I think it needs to stay that way.
Yeah, don't change it. That's absolutely beautiful. One of my jokes that anyone asks me about you, Keith, is that you will call 10 different people to figure out what kind of toilet paper you need to put in your break room there at the shop. You are as detailed and as thoughtful in your decision making process as anyone I've ever met. Talk about that process for you and the care you take to make sure that you're implementing the right and making the right decisions at the facility.
So I think that's Keith's fear of making decisions. And that's the best way to put it. I have this fear that I'm not making the right decision. So I have to exhaust every option before I make that decision. And I'm my own worst enemy. I play devil's advocate all the time. It's if then, if I do this, then what can happen? So I like to talk to a lot of people. I do get on the phone. I call a lot of people. And when I make decisions, I put a lot of thought behind it. And that's just the way I am, I guess. I don't know why I'm like that, but I feel like it's such a big, every little thing, every little decision you make impacts the golf course somehow, in my opinion. I mean, when it comes from watering, um, whether I'm not going to water the fairways tonight, or the sand that I choose to rebuild the greens, or the turf grass variety that I choose, everything changes the golf course, and you're stuck with it forever. I mean, when we went through that project, I had a lot of people saying, Keith, you got to be on cloud nine. You've got brand new greens, you got a new profile, you cut down a lot of trees to get light to the greens. And I'm like, yeah, that's all well and good, but guess who's responsible for that profile? I can no longer blame the guy before me. I've been here 34 years. I can't blame
You are the
anybody
guy.
but me, right? So if anything goes wrong, guess whose fault it is? So that's why I put so much effort into making those decisions. And it doesn't matter, like you said, it could be the toilet paper in the break room, but that's the way I take things. I take a lot of responsibility, and I take it seriously.
No, it's really nice to hear. And a job like this, you have to take very seriously. One of the things I was watching the video Brian did a couple years ago with you, and one of the big things I took away from that was that you're talking about making mistakes. And I think that's one thing that's kind of flies under the radar a little bit on the golf course, is that we do have to make some mistakes to learn from, or learn some lessons from our mistakes. And I know you talked a lot about that, and I'd love you to just kind of expand on that, and that's tell us a little bit about your theory.
Well, for the young guys out there, there's two types of superintendents: guys that have lost grass and guys that will.
Yep.
And that's
Nailed
there's
it.
two types of superintendents. There's guys that have and guys that will. Now, I've always said that, and I've made my share of mistakes, and I've killed my share of grass. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people call me. I tell people all the time, the reason you called me is because I've killed more grass than you, and but I've figured it out over time. So if you make a mistake, figure out why you made your mistake, and don't do it again. The guys that move on in this business are the guys that figure out their mistakes, and they don't make them a second time. That makes you a better superintendent. There's no doubt in my mind about it. I've been doing this a long time, and I've made my share of mistakes. Trust me, I look back to some of the things, and I'm just thankful that the members still trusted me, because I've killed my share of grass out here, but I've always had the reasons why. I've always communicated, and it's never happened again. Now, I've never killed grass the same way twice. Let's put it that way.
There you go.
There's a lot of ways to kill grass. I've
Oh,
figured
yeah.
that out over the years.
Well, they like it firm and fast out there, so it's okay. Dead grass usually plays pretty quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, but another cohort of mine, if I can mention Clay Stewart, I was talking to him on the phone, and he goes, Keith, everybody loves it firm and fast until it's dead and wet.
Yeah.
And then
That's
it's
true.
like, what do I got now? So dead and wet, no fun. So
Yeah.
pushing firm and fast and calling it brown is great, but when it's dead and wet, it ain't no fun. And so you got to be careful. You got to be careful with what you do, and how far you push it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned people calling you, and then also you reaching out to other people. How important is your network of peers to you, and how important have they been to you throughout your career?
Well, it's everything. That's one of the things I love about this industry. If somebody calls me, I'm absolutely going to call them back. I'm not going to blow them off because if a guy needs help, I feel like I've been there so many times and people have helped me. So, and again, like you said, I mean, I call people all the time asking opinions, whether I'm not, if I'm having a beer at OTF, there might be something on my mind and I might just say, hey, what do you think about this? Getting guys' opinions. I want to hear how other guys think. So that's the greatest thing about our job in our industry is just the way people interact with each other and try to help each other. We're all in the same scenario and the same, everybody's got different problems, but we're all trying to provide one thing. And it's a great golf course for our membership or our guests or our people that are playing that day on a public perspective. I mean, some people just have more resources than others, but having that, being able to have 5 or 10 guys on the phone that I can call means everything because, I've been doing this 30, almost 40 years. And the more I do it, you would think, oh, you're just on autopilot. Everything clicks off without a hitch. And right now, I'm like, I'm more scared than I've ever been because I know of all the things that can go wrong and how quick it can go wrong. So you can never let your guard down. You always got to be on your A game. And, I just have a lot of respect for what we do because it's not easy. It's not. I mean, there's just so many variables and so many things that can go wrong. You just have to be that careful. And the more people you talk to and the more information you get from wherever you get your information, whether it's stuff like this, which I think is great, or Twitter, or going to OTF, or keeping up with your education at the national. I mean, all those things are just huge. And that's what I've done over the years. I've tried to make sure that I've always gone to these classes and keep learning. I don't want to get left behind.
Your learning and your networking has obviously played a big part, and I'd love to ask you about how that translates into being a boss, a superintendent, director of agronomy, and a coach. You have a staff yourself. You probably had some people that worked there for a while. I'd love to hear you talk about, that relationship you have with them. And, I've only met you and talked to you now for half an hour, and you seem like a kind of guy I'd love to work for. So I'd love to hear about your staff and the relationship there.
So, I've my philosophy, I guess, as a golf course superintendent from day one, when I get an intern or an assistant or whomever I've hired to work for me, I'm going to teach them as much as I can. And I'll give you one reason why. It's because eventually they're going to leave here and they're taking part of me. And I don't want anybody going anywhere going, what the heck is this guy talking about? And what the heck is going on at the golf club? I mean, I thought the golf club was a pretty nice place. And, so it's in my best interest to give them as much information as I possibly can, because I want them to go out there and hit the pavement running and know how Keith's mind thinks. Now, whether or not you align with how Keith's mind thinks from an agronomic perspective or a management perspective or a communication perspective, that's fine. You can change that over time, but I'm going to give them everything I got because I want them to succeed. And I think when somebody goes out and succeeds somewhere else, it makes the golf club look better and everybody that works here, whether it's my superintendent, the other guys that I consider my assistants. I mean, when people leave here, I want them to go, wow. I mean, I want them to go to the next place and have that superintendent go, wow, this dude is hitting the ground running and he's ready. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's just important to always be coaching them up, just like you said. I mean, I would say that my style of management is more of a coaching style management, and I ask a lot of questions because I want them to. I'm trying to engage them. I want their opinion. I tell them all the time, look, I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't want a yes or no answer. I would do this, and here's why. So I want you to think about your answer. I'm going to force you to give me your opinion. There's no right or wrong answer in turf. Sometimes there is, but that we all do it a different way. And when you force them to tell you why, it makes them better.
Is that the same philosophy you took to your bowling teams when you were coaching bowling as well?
That was on a little different level. But
No mistakes in the
no,
bowling alley.
well, what I did there was more like, hey, look, if we don't have good form and we practice bad form, we're never going to get better. Okay, so if that golf course isn't where we want it and it's bad, it's never going to get good if we don't get better. And so we got to practice good form to have the end result be good. And somebody could go out on a driving range, putting it in a golf perspective and hit balls all day long. But if their swing really isn't tuned to hitting a ball square, they're never going to get any better. They might figure out how to compromise their golf swing to get the ball to be where they want to be in the middle of the fairway, but it's not going to be uh, pretty. Let's say that. So yeah, I mean, those philosophies, I guess, are a little different. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely more of a coaching kind of a guy. I bring them along, I ask them questions, I tell them what, you know, give them an if then. What happens if I do this today? And then they give me an answer, and then I go, but what about this? I'll give them a 1-2 punch type thing. I'll ask them a question, but I'll have something else on the backside going. But the end result could be this. Now what do I do? And they're like, ooh. So
You
I don't
took
know.
you took a question that I asked that wasn't very serious and really turned it into some gold right
Did,
there,
yeah.
Keith. I'm really impressed. And since you brought up the fact of practicing your golf swing and making sure you're doing the right things, what's your latest YouTube video lesson that you're working on right now?
Oh, there's always something, right? But I think it's the position of my shoulders through impact.
Okay.
That I think it's really bad and it's got to get better.
Have you been recording your swing inside or out on the range lately?
No, not lately, but I did buy a launch monitor, like a little mini launch monitor
Ooh.
There we
thing.
go.
So that might be something that's going to be fun to experiment with. I haven't had a chance to mess with it much, but Keith needs to dial in his wedges. His wedges, I don't know
Oh
if it's
man.
going to go 30 yards or 100. You know me, Brian.
It depends what part of the ball you hit. Usually it goes lower and longer when you hit the middle of the ball.
Yeah, good
Just
point. Good point.
I don't know if we've talked about this too much, Brian, on the show, but I think Keith would be a great person to ask this about. How important is it for a superintendent or a director to play their golf course?
So to me, it's paramount. And I tell every one of my guys that work for me, look, you don't have to be I don't expect you to be a 6 handicap or a single digit handicap or even a 10 handicap. You need to play the game enough to know what a fast green is, what a firm green is, what a firm bunker is, what a soft bunker is, what a firm fairway is, and what a soft fairway is. The game changes so much based on maintenance. All of those things we can kind of control, can we not? So you need to know as a golf course superintendent how those things change the game of golf because your members are going to report back to you saying the greens are soft. Well, if you don't know what a soft green is and you don't have that knowledge of what a soft green is and why they want it firm, you're I don't think you're not doing yourself justice as a golf course superintendent, nor are you doing the industry justice, in my opinion. Now, you know, we can go down a bunch of rabbit holes when you start talking about those kinds of things, but it's very important. I think it's, if you, I don't like hearing the guy go, well, I just worked 12 hours on the golf course. Why do I want to go hit golf balls? Or why do I want to go take a day off and play somewhere? You know what Keith does when he takes a day off? He goes and plays golf. That's usually what Keith does. When Keith takes time off of work, he's playing golf. Um, I would shudder to think how many hours I've spent on a golf course because I happen to be fortunate enough to live on the golf course here at the golf club. So it's scary how many hours I've spent on a golf course over my career and my lifetime, really, going back to the caddy days.
It's probably easier to think of the amount of hours and days where you've not been on a golf course than it is
Yeah.
time on it.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
As much time as I've spent with you, I never really learned about your influences or your mentors. Then obviously knowing Yodi and Mike McBride, was just
Yeah.
curious.
So those guys I talk to all the time, or still to this day, not all the time, but I still have a tremendous amount of respect for a guy like Mark Yoder and Mike McBride because they were doing some of these things that are standard procedures right now in our industry. When I got to Souda Country Club, Mark Yoder was mowing all his fairways with triplex mowers. Who thinks of that? Mark Yoder did, and he started doing it. And guess what? The grass got healthier, and it helped. And Mike McBride I go there in the summer of 1987 when we had that Ryder Cup. Mike went to Ed Etchells and said, Ed, I want to top dress greens weekly. And Ed Etchells said, Mike, they'll be dead by the end of the summer. Well, as it turns out, we top dress those greens every Monday. And to this day, Nick Faldo says those are still some of the best greens he's ever putted on in his life. So Mike kind of pioneered that light, frequent top dressing program that that a lot of guys implement now. Now, I think we've kind of gone back the other way because we've found some of the negative connotations that can happen. But it's things like that that those guys are innovators, and I think they should be on here because that's part of the history of our industry. I mean, I grew up at a time when our industry was changing a lot, and I just kind of copied things that I thought were really good practices and ran with them. But those guys were the guys that were like scratching their head going, I want to do this, but I'm not sure what's going to happen. But you know what? They had the gumption to go ahead and do it, and turns out their ideas were right, and it turned out to be a good thing for our industry. And then, because of that, look at all the top dressers that we have now. I mean, we didn't have a light frequent machine to put down sand that light and that frequently, but Mike McBride figured out how to do it through a Vicon mounted on a John Deere sprayer. And that's pretty innovative.
Awesome. I wanted to ask you, Keith, just about being a father as well. Like you have kids at home, and what's that like trying to balance that, your work, playing golf, being on the golf course, and then, taking care of a family as well?
Yeah, difficult to always juggle that, but I felt very fortunate because I lived on the property here, and I was able to shoot home at times, grab the kids, take them out on the golf course. Um, and I suppose one thing that I've tried to do throughout my career is have that, now the work-life balance thing is very important and it's very vogue, and but I've always done that. I always told myself, if I'm out there working 12 to 15 hours a day, something's wrong. I either haven't told my members that I need more people or a bigger budget or more labor. I feel like there's something I'm doing wrong. Maybe I'm mismanaging things. So I've always told myself, you know, 10 hours is probably enough. I don't mind putting in a 10-hour day. 12 to 15 is, now I understand there's reasons, there's projects and things like that that take up a lot of your time. And I worked 12 to 15 hours when we did our project here. But for the daily routine thing through the summer, I try to limit it to a 10-hour day. So I was still able to make it home and shoot off to see my kids' sports games and things like that. So um, work-life balance for me has always been part of my program, and I think the guys that work for me will tell you the same thing. I've got one of my guys is off for a week right now. 25, 30 years ago, I would have thought, you're not allowed to take a week off in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, go. We've got a good staff here. We've got enough people here to be able to absorb that situation. So go get refreshed. And so I've always been in that, more towards that work-life balance category. I didn't want to get burned out. I wanted to do this for a long time. And this industry can chew you up and spit you out. There's no question. And if you're out there doing that daily grind, 12 to 15 hours a day, I think it takes a real special person to be able to do that. I'm not that guy. I've always tried to take Sunday off. I'm not saying I don't go see the golf course on Sunday, but Sunday morning, Keith's not here. Is Keith here Sunday afternoon? Absolutely. By 5 o'clock, Keith's riding around on the golf course. But it's that's what I told myself early on in my career, that I wanted to make sure that I did, and I feel like I've achieved that fairly well.
You mentioned a bit ago you've seen a massive evolution, a lot of change within the industry. What do you think's maybe the biggest change that you've seen, the most impactful change you've seen?
Yeah, I think about that all the time, Brian, and it's a great question. Unfortunately, I don't think I can have one answer to that, because our products have gotten so much better for controlling all of the pests that we have on golf courses. Our irrigation systems have gotten so much better. So to put one thing, put your finger on one thing and say that's the one, you would probably have to go back and say it's the mowing equipment, because what's the most important surface on the golf course? The putting green.
Yeah.
our mowing equipment has gotten so much better from even from the 80s. You know, walking greens mowers, compare a walking greens mower from 1980 to a walking greens mower right now, and it's a night and day difference. So probably maybe a curveball to some guys, but the most important surface is the putting green, and the mower. That's something we do every day, and that's probably, you know, you can sit there and say it's irrigation, you can sit there and say it's the products we use, but when it comes down to it, we have mowers that allow us to mow really, really low and provide some really nice putting surfaces. Now, it's not just all about mowing. Everybody knows that in order to have a good putting surface, there's a lot of things that go into making a putting surface good, but a mower is a very important part of that. And boy, those manufacturers have gotten really good at making those mowers cut really good. So for that reason, I say mower.
Look at you. You made a decision, Keith.
It was hard. It was hard.
So proud. So
I have a
proud.
hard time making decisions.
We just wanted to get into something here that we talk about quite a bit on the show is education. And in the last, I want to say 2 hours, we've had 4 people reach out with basically the same question. I think it's because it's getting to be, you know, the end of the year and guys are trying to figure out what they're going to do. But we've had a number of people ask this question. I'd love to hear your opinion. They're basically asking, you know, they've had a lot of experience, whether it's 2, 3, 4 years working at a golf course full time. They're now ready to move on and become an AIT or go to school, but they can't decide on what to do. So I know a lot of people say maybe you go and you work that AIT position and take an online school, but there's kids out there that are really looking for direction. So I'd love to hear what you think about that.
So, you know what? Going back to earlier in the program here, I talked about ATI, and I'll tell you what, that program at the Agricultural Technical Institute in Worcester, Ohio, was the absolute best thing for me because I am a visual learner. Okay, at ATI, you were able to go out and operate a greens mower and see the bed knife and see the reel, and then they taught you how to grind that reel and how to lap that. You don't get that experience at Ohio State. Okay, so I guess I would figure out what kind of learner you are, whether you're a book learner. If you feel like you can learn it all online, great. I mean, more power to you, but getting that hands-on experience that I got at ATI is what allowed me to continue my education. And when I got to Ohio State as a young turf student, I felt like I was leaps and bounds ahead of some of the guys that were my same age because of ATI. I was out looking at diseases. They had you out in the field looking at diseases. They didn't have you in the classroom looking at slides. You saw real life out there in the field. So that technical training and that learning experience like that for me was paramount. You know, we were out identifying trees. We're going on tree walks. We didn't look at them slides in a book. So I guess to figure out what kind of learner you are and make your decision there, but get that degree. That means a lot. That means a lot. And you know what? By the way, you learn a few other things in college that don't even have to do with turf. It's how to deal with people. That's important. When you got roommates that don't pay their bills, you got to handle that situation. Okay. How are you going to handle that situation? Because you know what? You're going to have a situation similar to that when you're a golf course superintendent. It's going to be, hey, this guy didn't show up for work on time. How are we going to handle that situation? You got to figure it out, right? So you learn a lot in school that's not even associated with turf. I say that piece of paper means a lot to me as a golf course superintendent, or a director of grounds hiring people. I'm looking for that degree first, and then what did they do with it later?
Love it.
What are some of those skills, Keith? What are those skills that you're looking for when you're making decisions on hiring interns, assistants, whatever it may be?
So I guess it's a buzzword, but communication is so important in our world today, right? We live in a time right now when communication is easy. We're always connected to whatever, the internet, you know, but does this person know how to talk to somebody else and have a conversation? What's their personality like? Are they, you know, you want people that are going to fit into your program and get along. I don't want somebody that's my way or the highway. I'm not that kind of a guy either, you know. So I don't want that confrontational type person. I want that person that's easy to get along with, flexible, knowledgeable, and can be a chameleon. They can change their ways in a heartbeat, because in this industry, guess what? A thunderstorm rolls through here and you might have had everything detailed and planned for the next day, but all of a sudden now you got to change your whole plan. Now that really ruffles some guys' feathers. I mean, they're like, they can't handle that. They're very detail oriented and got to do this, this, and this. But sometimes you got to change things on the fly and go with it. And you need that guy that's able to do that. So flexibility is probably pretty important, but communication, personal skills, interpersonal relationships, getting along with people, all of those things are so important in what we do. It's amazing. And I've seen it happen where, you can have a great crew and everything can be clipping along, and you hire the wrong guy and he just starts driving wedges everywhere he can. And it's just like, really? And sometimes you don't see it coming. Sometimes maybe you knew that, but you got to have that continuity amongst your staff and have everybody on the same page as far as how we're going to get this done. I want to get it done and have fun. We're at work way too long with each other. We see our coworkers more than we see our families. So we got to get along.
Yeah, and you got to be coachable out there. If you're working under a superintendent or somebody like that, you got to be coachable. You can't figure that stuff all out in a summer or in a few years. It's going to take time. So lean on those people, ask a lot of questions, and this stuff's going to happen. And then, like he said, make some mistakes, learn from your mistakes, don't make them again, and it's
Right.
it's all going to make you better.
I mean, taking constructive criticism is important, right? I mean,
Mhm.
nobody likes to be told they're doing a bad job, but sometimes you just word it differently. Hey, how about we do it this way? Now, I didn't say you were doing it bad. It's just, I think this way's better. Okay. So, you know, so that's what I mean by, let stuff roll off your back and let's try it this way. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow, that did work pretty good. I kind of like that. And then I sit there and go, one of my famous lines with a lot of my guys is like, I'm willing to tell you everything I know. But when I tell you the last thing I know and I don't have any more information, I got to kill you. So when I walk up to him and I'm about ready to tell him something, I'm going, so do you think this is all I know? Do you think this is the last thing? And they look at me like, no, it can't be. I'm like, what do you want to know? Because you're going to find out the hard way sometime. And so that's my joke, right? I mean, but most of the time they're like, yeah, let me know. What do you got? And we'll talk about something. And then I'll be like, by the way, there's a lot more to learn. So let's move on.
It's great. It's a really tight knit community of superintendents within Central Ohio. What do you attribute that to?
Well, a lot of guys came to Ohio State and never left. I mean, in all reality, and even some of my friends that went to turf school that actually didn't wind up on golf courses, opened landscape companies and irrigation companies and are still here.
Yeah.
So, all the main guys that I went to school with, like a Carl Wittenauer from Youngstown, he's still here. I mean, it's amazing. Dean Massman from Toledo, he's still here. So I think that's part of it, is that Ohio State connection. That Ohio State connection's really kept us close. We've had a few people infiltrate from other universities, but it's a strong bond of that Ohio State group, and it's a tight group, and we've been here a long time. I think it's part of the memberships we work for in that Midwestern hospitality, where it's not where you see some of these other regions where it's really hard to keep a job for more than 5 years, because the membership is so demanding, and they'll just like, well, we'll just find somebody else that'll do what we want. With us, the people that we work for and the memberships that we have seem to be very, very understanding, and I think that helps too, just being this little Midwestern pocket here.
Was it a Ohio fire department that you had to teach a few lessons to on the golf course?
Yeah, I did. So yeah, you caught that story. That was a funny time. So I told you I live in the house on the property here, and it's about 2 o'clock in the morning, and my wife nudges me and says, "Hey, there's somebody at the door." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Somebody's knocking on our front door." So I wake up and I go downstairs and I open up the door, and it's the New Albany Fire Department. They're like, "Hey, there's some drunk guy in a car stuck on your golf course. And I'm like, ooh. And the guy's like, he's in kind of a precarious spot. We're not sure how to pull him out. I'm like, okay. So I get my golf cart and I ride out there with these guys. And this guy's got this, he went down this very, very, very narrow cart path next to a pond between a split rail fence and a pond that you can really only drive a golf cart on. And it dead ended. And he's like, he throws it in reverse, starts backing up, dumps the back right tire in the lake. So the car is now hung up on the bank in the lake, and the fire department has no idea what to do. And they've got this $100,000 brand new truck with a brand new winch on it. And I'm like, well, why don't we just take that winch, hook it to there, and pull them out? And they look at me like, we just got this truck and we don't know how to use the winch.
Come on.
Okay. At that point, Keith's getting a little frustrated because, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm tired. I'm like, all right, I'm going to drive my cart back I'm going to go to the shop. I'm going to get a tractor and I'm going to have this car out of here in minutes. And these guys are like, okay. So I come back with this chain and this tractor and I back the tractor up and I'm just like, get out of the way. And I handed the chain to one of the firemen. I said, the only thing I'm not doing is hooking this thing to that car because I ain't going to be responsible for hurting something on that guy's car. He's like, fair enough. I said, so you hit this somewhere on that front axle to where it's not going to break a brake line or it's not going to break a tie rod or something like that. Guy's like, okay, got it. So he finds a good solid piece of the frame, hooks the chain to it. I back that thing right out and out comes the car. I got a fireman in there and he's got it in neutral and we walk it right out of there. And I'm like, all right, guys, what else can I do for you? And they're just looking at me like in amazement, like, have you done this before? And I'm like, well, on golf courses, we pull equipment out of ditches all the time. I said, I'm not used to pulling cars out of ponds, but it was a crazy, the guy wound up being just drunk as you name. He thought he was in Pataskala.
Oh my gosh.
And the fireman walks him up to the 18th tee and they stand on it. He goes, you see this little tiny short grass here? He goes, that's the 18th tee at the golf club. We're nowhere near Pataskala. This guy insisted that this light that he was driving towards was his home.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
And so needless to say, I never went to bed that night. And this guy was still down at the clubhouse, and the cops came and I had to say, yeah, that was the guy that was here. But the guy was really smart. He started beeping his horn. And that's how they found him. He just started beeping his horn. So when somebody came to finally find him, he's like, well, I was with another guy. That guy fled the scene, but it's my car. He was driving. The other guy was sober, but he fled the scene because he got nervous. And so I wasn't going to leave my car. So the guy never got a DUI.
Wow.
Yeah. How about that? So to have those kind of wits at that state of your mind, it was pretty ingenious. But quite the event.
Awesome. And you might be one of the only superintendents that I know that has a logo made after them. Can you think of anyone else?
Thanks to you, right?
I had nothing to do with it. Your idea, it's your logo, man. So that's good. We honored Keith because he came up with the idea of the match play event for our chapter. So we created the logo for the match play event after Keith's profile. So that's going to live on forever now, Keith.
It's been a fun time, by the way. I'm glad we did it. And it gets guys, which is what I want. I want superintendents on golf courses playing golf together with industry reps. I mean, there's nothing bad happens when people get together in our industry and play golf together. And that was at a time when meetings were...
I wouldn't go that far, Keith, not to cut you off there, but I've seen several bad things that have probably happened getting guys together to play golf. So yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to step over you there.
Not necessarily on the golf course, though. Do you think it happens on the golf course or is it close?
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
No fire trucks on the course.
Follow.
Yeah. But it was at a time when the industry everybody was so busy and, labor was cut and meeting attendance was going down and not many guys showing up at meetings. And I was like, we need to do something to try to get people together on their own time, and so we created that little event. I went to Brian. He was the director of our local chapter at that time. And And I said, Brian, I said, you do so much. I said, I hate to give you another thing. And I said what I was thinking about. He goes, Keith, this is an awesome idea. We're 100% doing it. I'm all in. And so thanks to him for setting it all up. And we've had a lot of fun doing it. And uh, we've got
You've yet to claim the trophy, though, right?
I have yet to claim the trophy. I've been in the playoff, but
Yeah.
just can't clinch the deal, you know. So,
Where do you
uh,
stand
uh,
this year?
well, Bob Becker's my partner from Scioto. Me and Bob are in the playoffs, so we won our
Nice.
There you
pod.
go.
Yeah, we won our pod, and we're moving on. So we got a couple more matches to play. We're the you got to finish your matches by the second here. So pod play is officially done by September 2nd, and then we'll find out based on a seeding method who plays who. But there's a good chance I could play Chris Allender, my
Oh
superintendent,
no.
and Jim Dillard. So that could be very fun.
That would be, please let me know if you guys end up playing each other, because I'm definitely going to ride along for that match.
We would love
That
to have
one
you.
will be fun. That one. I
It
miss
will
you
be good.
guys, man. I miss
Uh,
being around you guys.
I know it's you've been working too hard. You've been all over the darn country for
Yeah. The guy doesn't stop.
Got to pay the bills, man.
well, it's good to see you doing well though. It's cool what you've done, and I do have to say thanks for doing what you do because it's fun.
I
See you
appreciate it.
doing it.
Nothing I'd rather be doing, that's for sure.
Do you have any fun stories you want to leave us with today, Keith? Hunting or maybe turf?
Um, most of my stories that I remember are probably the times when I killed grass. You know, um, I guess in wrapping things up, I like I said, I feel very fortunate to have been here as long as I have. But I feel um, as I feel like I'm on the backside of my career, I can honestly say that I was one of the guys that was able to night water. Um, and everybody talks about and I don't know if how many people have actually done it, but I've done it myself. And to see the sun come up over a fairway with those bayonets running out there in the fairway, and you might see 5 or 7 of them running, it's a beautiful sight. And it's something I'll never forget, you know, doing those kinds of things. I mean, you come in at midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning and you're working until the sun comes up, and then you work all the way till noon or sometimes 6 o'clock the next day. But that site is always going to be ingrained in my head. And so I've been here long enough to see myself go out and plug sprinklers into a fairway, and then also see me run an irrigation system with a cell phone on my hip. So that's kind of crazy. It's stuff like that that I think about, like how far we've come over this time, and that's all since I've been at the golf club. We when I got here, we had a manual irrigation system for fairways. We had no automatic heads, and now it's a computer controlled irrigation system with a great uniform distribution of coverage. And so it's just amazing to see the improvements that we've made, and the strides that we've made. And these guys that are coming out of college now are leaps and bounds ahead of where I was coming out of college, because they're getting trained by some of the best. I mean, you look at where things have gone with guys like Chad Mark and Bob Becker, and we've all trained these guys everything we know, and then they hit the ground running with that. So it's a perpetuating thing. And I guess the exciting thing for me is I want to know, I want to stay close enough to this industry as I retire, maybe in 5 years, whatever, 7 years. But I want to know where it goes. That's going to be the thing that really, really interests me, is seeing where it goes. I mean, now we're mowing with autonomous mowers. I've got one of these little Husqvarna mowers that's doing a great job for us. So, I think about how mowing's changed just in that time. So it's going to be interesting if if you'd have told me that I'd have a computer controlled irrigation system that I'd use a cell phone to control it with. In 1988, I would have told you there's no way. There's no way that's going to happen. But it is. It's real, and you can't shy away from some of this technology. You have to try it out, right? You have to embrace it a little bit. Sometimes we all resist it a little bit here and there, and Lord knows I'm probably one of those. But you do have to keep up with the times, and I'm curious to see where it goes. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun ride. You guys will get to see a lot more than me.
It's
It's
going
been
to be
fun.
cool to see, like, 20, 25 years from now. Jeez, it's hard to think.
I can't imagine in 20 or 25 years what we'll be doing, but it won't be what we're doing today. I can assure you of that. There'll be very few things similar, but we'll still be trying to eke out another 6 inches off the stimp meter,
Oh yeah.
whatever speed you're at. Whatever speed you're at, you're going to be looking for that extra 6 inches. I'll guarantee that. That's just how we are. That's how our brain works. We're always going to try to
Always,
improve.
always looking to take that next step. So,
Yeah.
well, Keith, this has been awesome. Really appreciate your
Mhm.
time and all the stories. Even though you were a little hesitant to come on, this was a great conversation. Again, just can't thank you enough for being a part of it.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you bringing me on. I guess I didn't really feel like I had a whole lot to offer, but just chatting with you guys is fun. It's a really good time. We should
Awesome. No,
get together again sometime soon.
Yes, yeah.
I
I'm home starting next week a little bit, so I'm gonna send a group text out, and we're gonna get the gang back together.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
We need a practice round, Brian.
Done.
yeah, it sounds like Brian hasn't played much golf, so you got to get him out there.
Yeah, but
It's all
you know
right.
what? It comes back pretty quick for him. I can,
Oh, I bet.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, it comes back pretty quick because I guarantee I won't beat him.
We just got to get ready for the Wii One scramble. That's it,
What I'm
man.
saying,
Let's
we need a
go.
practice round.
Yep,
So
that's it.
consider that done.
Yep, I'm in. I'm
All
in.
right, buddy.
Awesome.
Good
Hey,
seeing you
Keith.
guys.
Great to
Thanks,
see
man.
you.
Thanks.
Take
Thanks a
care.
lot for joining us, Keith. Honestly, I think people are really gonna get a kick out of this one. You did a great job with the interview, so we thank you
Yeah,
so
it was
much.
awesome.
Well, thank you. Like I told Brian, I said I really didn't know what I had to offer, but apparently you guys thought it was okay.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Ton to offer. Ton to offer. So
It'll
good
be a
stuff,
good one.
man. We'll touch
Take
base
care, guys.
next week.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, Keith. Take care.
Yep.
Thanks
Bye
a lot,
bye.
Keith.
See ya.
Like, awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just awesome.
I had a feeling he'd be a really good guest. Like I, you know, so many superintendents out there are just so humble, don't think they do anything special
Mhm.
or whatever. But every person is unique. They all kind of do things a little differently, have their own approach to things. And, again, Keith is a guy that I've looked up to and that many people within that region have looked up to and reach out to because, as he said, I mean, he's always willing to pick up the phone, answer a phone call someone back, and just talk shop. And he's certainly one of the guys that consistently gets reached out to when it comes to being a golf course superintendent and making the right choices because he's really good at what he does. Really good at what he does.
Yeah,
And
it's
he's just a great person too.
absolutely. It's one thing to be humble, and that's always nice. It's always appreciated. But at the same time, top 100, leading a crew at a top 100 golf course, like, you have something special. You have some really good experience, and there's a lot of people that can take from that. So, but
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I'm really really happy he was able to come on, and I learned a lot too. I feel like I learned so much every time we get to talk to somebody different, doing different things. It's so great.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty special doing what we do and being able to talk to all these different personalities around the country and just kind of listening to the way they do things and share ideas with everybody. It's pretty special.
Yeah, we're not here to grill anybody, right? We just want to have some
No.
fun and have that conversation and leave it open.
Yeah.
People have asked about our show process, and there really isn't much of a process. This is their show. It's the
Yeah.
episode's going to have his name on it. It's all about him, and that's the way we want it to be.
Yep, absolutely. Just ask the right questions and get them to kind of talk about their thought process and leadership styles, management, all that kind of stuff. So it's what's important.
So that's it. Got a couple people reach out today. A couple messages from the community. Living Like Jay said, best podcast in the game. Harbor Turf said, if you boys are ever in Massachusetts, would love to have you by my place. Come on out with your sticks. And then Through the Keeper's Eye said, thanks for being one of the few constants I can count on Tuesdays. I'm always tuned in. So,
Awesome. Appreciate everyone listening.
yeah, no, it's great to hear from those guys. We had some questions. Like I said, there was some questions about
Uh-oh.
the AIT and the going to school and stuff like that. So I'm glad that Keith was able to help with that. I know we've talked about it a ton on the show, and it's very customizable to who you are as a person and your experience and the people you're working with. So keep leaning on all those
Yep.
people around you to figure out what's kind of right for you. We did have a cool one come in from Baz McD. He was asking what our thoughts were on the lack of equipment techs that are available right now in the industry. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's huge. That is huge. Yeah, I mean, I had that conversation when I was at Hazeltine, um, and Austin Wright up there, the equipment manager, he started on the turf side and just kind of saw that niche and and started, changing the direction of his career and went into the equipment side of it. And we've had that conversation before as well on the show with all the new technology that's coming out. I mean, it's really turning into like a technology manager, right? I mean, there's computers that are having to troubleshoot now and all these other things that go well beyond, your standard equipment maintenance. And yeah, I mean, there's a huge demand for them. There's absolutely a huge demand for them. And yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the most important pieces of any program, right? Are the people that are back there making sure stuff's doing what it needs to do.
Yes. I know we're probably in this industry a little behind, right? If you look at the automotive industry, they've had EV
Yeah.
vehicles, they've had hybrid vehicles for years now. And when you go to a dealership in the mechanics bay and things, there's mechanics working and there's techs working. So you
Yeah.
have both of them working side by side, and there's lots of people now they're training to do both because I'm sure there's still going to be mechanical work and diesel engines and things like that that are going to have to be worked on. But we're going from a shift of just mechanics to now mechanics and techs to maybe eventually mostly techs, right?
Yeah.
So we're just kind of a little behind in the industry, and I'm hoping they're teaching more of that stuff as machines are coming out and things are innovating. I hope that they're educating the right people so that we will have that because it's I'm sure most mechanics I've worked with, excuse me, most mechanics I've worked with have been a little bit older. So there's going to come a time when a lot of those men and women decide to move on, and there's going to be people kind of coming up and taking their jobs, and they're going to have to know how to work with
Yeah.
electrical components and things like that.
Yeah. No, and I've seen some really sharp ones out there. I mean, the more, again, being fortunate to be traveling on the road, I have started to see a lot more um, young equipment managers that are coming in and that are a little more well versed in some of the latest and greatest technology. So I think there's certainly some hope out there, but no different than the superintendent position itself, right?
Hmm.
Within the industry, I mean, there's just a shortage of people that are aware of what's available within the industry. So it's just a matter of getting the word out there and talking about all the opportunities that are available in the golf course industry. All right, bud. Well, I'm gonna roll. Yeah, just let me know if you need anything.
Okay, sounds good. Have fun down
Awesome.
there.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, we'll do. We'll see you.
Okay, take care.